Too good, folks. Too good. Folks, that gets me every time. A little bit of diatribe. Beautiful track found on artlist.io. If you love the tracks, go ahead, hit the link in the description below for 2 months of free music. You're welcome. My name is Murray Forbes. This is CM Travels, and we've got a very special guest today. But first, you know what we have to do. It's time to cue that lovely little intro. Okay, Justin, thank you so much for joining me here today on CM Travels. I appreciate it.
Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
As much as I've got to know you over the last, well, maybe it's quite a while now. I think it's over a year now, Justin, that we first bumped into each other. Please introduce yourself to the audience here at CM Travels.
Okay, I'm an Australian photographer. I'm living in Zurich now since 2016, so the years go by. 2006. Sorry. So
jeez, I moved in Switzerland in 2016, so I was like, nah, surely Justin, you've been here for a bit longer.
Yeah, it feels like 4 years, but somehow it's 14 years somehow. But so I've been here since 2006. I'm a freelance photographer. I probably mostly specialize in portraiture, interior photography, very business orientated. Zurich's a very business like world. So, most of my work is corporate, pharma companies, banks, insurance, all that kind of stuff. So, and then, so I've been doing it now as a professional photographer since about 96. I started photography. So
I'm assuming that's with a good old film camera.
Yeah, so I learned. I went to school, university in Australia, and studied photography, and so that was in the film days. So everything was film, and I've gone through that digital revolution, and I suppose I was quite, the digital world pretty much came in. I would say, digital photography around the year 2000, the cameras were like $40,000. So, I mean, it wasn't possible to even get into that field. And then it was so limited anyway, and no one really had much respect for digital back then. And, maybe the sports photographers used it because it was a speed thing, but everyone else was still shooting film. And so I went through that whole, I learned, and I'm very happy I learned photography with film because, it really taught you to understand, for example, exposure. I don't know how many new photographers really understand how exposure works. I mean, they take the picture, they look at the back of their camera, and I'm not criticizing, I do that too. I understand
the quick
like exposure, but I still take a photo and go, it's a little bit dark. I'll add a bit more light. So, but back in the days when you were shooting film, like definitely you had to absolutely know what that light was doing and how it was going to affect. And I still remember, because I was quite early in photography, flash photography was so scary to enter in and turn on that flash because you just didn't know what it was doing, and then so you didn't really have that understanding yet. So it was pretty terrifying, the old flash photography with film.
I could definitely attest to that because I strapped a flash like a hot shoe on. It was Bluetooth flash. I was trying to get a Bluetooth. I think it's Bluetooth, but I was trying to get like a flash photography from the side. Geez, even with the digital camera, it took me a
Yeah.
while at a couple of YouTube videos to realize, okay, this is how the flash works. I can't imagine. You must have taken a lot
Yeah.
of photos that were
It,
overexposed. It just took time, no?
Yeah, these hot shoe photos that you used to take with film, like the camera hot shoe flash. I mean, you used to write down what you did. So you'd say, oh, f6, f5.6 at a 60th, and the flash was like this, and then you'd take 3 photos, and all 3 photos would be different. And then it's like, I don't understand. Like,
What
what's the
just
flash
happened?
doing? Like, and at least with digital, like you can say, okay, that one's a good one. Like maybe you don't have to fully understand what it's doing, but as long as you get the
It worked.
result. But in film, it was so frustrating. So yeah, so
Oh,
I kind of learned in the film days, and then I got a job. Well, actually, I went to India to teach photography, which was a great opportunity. And they had a lot of, it was from the university I studied in Melbourne, in Australia, and they had a lot of faith in me. And they said, we want you to go to India and teach in our school in India. And then I said to them, like, I just finished studying. Like, I don't even know how to teach. And they're going, it doesn't matter. Like, go over there. We like your passion. Just go over there and do the best you can. So, that was a pretty deep learning curve. And I think it was like studying all over again, because every time I had to stand up in front of the class for 3 hours, I had to study the night before what I was going to talk about. So it was almost like just restudying photography from zero again. And I think I learned more in that year as a teacher about photography than I did actually while I was studying
yeah, they
photography.
do say that. They say something about if you really want to master something, become a teacher of it, or something to that effect. I paraphrase.
Yeah,
But so
yeah.
that year really solidified your knowledge of just what you were getting yourself into with photography and how everything works. I'm assuming flash photography as
Yeah,
well.
and giving confidence. Yeah, and giving confidence. Yeah, that was the main thing. So, and so when I came back to Australia after that year, for sure I had a lot more confidence, and it was great shooting in India. India's an amazing country to shoot in, and and then I got a job at the newspaper in Melbourne, which was, I mean, that was my dream job. And there's not many jobs in the newspapers. And, I got that job because I was contacting them, I was sending them. It was back in the days before you could really just email photos. So I was sending them a CD with photos that I'd shot in the last month. And then the next month I'd send them another CD. And then I think they just knew me because I kept sending these CDs. And then they asked me to do a job one day because they were short of photographers. And, that just opened up the door, just that one job. And so
Crazy.
then I was a freelancer for the newspaper there. And as luck would have it, there was another photographer there that was causing them big hassles and, being a real pain in the ass to them. And so they ended up pulling this staff photographer off the job. And then they said, do you want to become a staff photographer here? So, and that was great. Like, so then that was when they first gave me a digital camera. They said, here's like, as a staff photographer, they give you all the equipment. And it was Nikon back then. So I was a Canon photographer. I'd learned with Canon, and then they gave me all this Nikon equipment, and it was all digital. I can't remember. I think it was a 100D, if that makes sense. It's a while ago now.
Geez, we'll have to look that up.
Yeah, but it was a great camera. Yeah, it was a fantastic camera, and I took the digital very fast because I thought, mate, this is fantastic. Gone shooting freelance stuff for the newspaper on film, and you never knew whether you did a good job or not. You'd go back to the office, not knowing what you'd just done. Did it work out? Like, am I ever going to work for this newspaper again? And yeah, so that was great to have that experience with digital and sort of grow with digital. And then I, unfortunately, not unfortunately, but just the way life works sometimes, I was together with the Swiss woman back in Australia. And we'd made a deal together that when she finished studying, she was studying graphic design. When she finished studying, we would come and live in Switzerland. That was our deal because she didn't want to live her whole life in Australia. And
Okay, fair enough.
yeah, that was after about a year and a half of working my dream job at the newspaper, where I could see myself staying the rest of my life at that newspaper, how much I loved it. And then, but a year and a half later, I had to quit this dream job and come over to Switzerland. So it was like, I mean, that's what love does, I suppose.
Yeah,
So,
don't we know it? It's
yeah,
the reason why
it
I'm
was
here as
kind of,
well.
yeah, it was kind of more powerful than my dedication to photography. So yeah, and you know what's funny? I'm not with her anymore, and then I think my dedication to photography was stronger than my love. So
uh, but
yeah,
I mean, this is must a slight turning point. Then I'm assuming now you perhaps began that journey of your personal brand.
yeah, I think what happened when I came over here, I had a lot of confidence because I was shooting. The newspaper was just a great classroom. You were shooting, you never had the choice of what you could shoot. They would just say, today you're shooting food, you need to go out to this restaurant and shoot some food stuff. And the next day, you might have been on an aircraft carrier shooting like planes taking off. And then it's like, there was just so much variation every single day. And then when you did a bad job, there was not long enough to think about like and dwell on it and lose confidence, because the next job was like an hour later. And
Yeah,
then
next
so
is coming up.
and it was great to learn. You made mistakes and then you went on and you learn, and the next job was great. And then so the confidence always stayed because you always had time like to
It's the best way to learn,
do.
I think, like that. You just got to keep pushing yourself and push those comfort levels.
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, when I ended up in Switzerland, I then went into be a freelancer for the first time, and I didn't know what to expect. You come to a country that speaks another language, you don't know how this whole industry works over here. I was shooting a lot of sport in Australia, but like, I'd never shot football or ice hockey or any of these type of sports, skiing, like
Super
snowboarding.
fast sports, no?
Yeah, I've never shot this sort of stuff before. So I was like, okay, am I going to become a sport photographer? And, I wasn't sure. Then I started doing portraits. And I think what luckily happened for me when I arrived here was 2006, 2007, 2008. They were very good times in the photography world, but the industry was booming. People had money. I mean, I was doing jobs, and most of the jobs, the client wasn't even asking, how much do you charge for this job? They just wanted you to do the job. And then afterwards, you just invoice them. Like they didn't even know what you were charging. And then I think that doesn't happen
Crazy.
anymore.
Yeah,
Like that
no
never
ways.
happened. Yeah, so it was really the good times, which made my my move into Switzerland a lot easier than what it could be today, for example. That's a tough time to be just arriving in Switzerland now, for example, and trying to start your freelance world. So, that helped me a little bit get established. And then, ever since then, photography's grown a lot, and, I've grown a lot as well and become better. And, I suppose started specializing in portraiture, and that I just love that aspect about photography. I find it massively challenging. And I think
Who was that? Sorry to interject here, Justin, but portraiture, I think it was, I keep seeing these adverts about this lady who does portrait photography, and I'll put her name up here for you guys to know who I'm
Annie
talking.
Leibovitz.
That's the one. And she says your job as a photographer is not to make the subject at ease or something to that effect. It was like to make them uncomfortable or to let them be uncomfortable and try and capture that moment. A little bit different, the kind of things that she does. But how did that, how did you manage that? How did you become not only a photographer, but also a people's person to make them feel comfortable in front of the camera?
Yeah. Well, I always found that funny. I'd studied I had a great portrait photographer, a portrait teacher at the university.
Okay.
And I think that's probably why I had a lot of confidence in portraiture, because he was such a good teacher. And then somehow you grow in confidence when you think, okay, he taught me what I need to know. Don't doubt yourself. because he's taught me how it works. And so somehow it's not always like that with teachers, and and it's not all, even if you haven't. I'm not a big believer in university necessarily, that you have to go to school and you have to learn photography. I mean, there's so much information on the internet now. I mean, you can self-teach yourself wonderfully. But one thing that university helps with is it takes away a bit of that self-doubt, because you always have a bit of self-doubt in photography. It's like,
am I good enough? Can I be at that high level?
Yeah, do I really know what I'm doing? I just taught myself this. I don't know if I really know everything. So yeah, you always have that doubt. That's natural. But I think, even as a university taught photographer, I have self-doubt all the time as well. So I mean, that's something that, it's always in photography, I think. So I remember learning, and they used to say, yeah, you have to get to know your subject, and you have to make them feel comfortable, and understand them and capture that moment. And I always thought that's so crap, because when I come in to do a job, I've got 15 minutes to do this job. I mean, I can hardly even ask them a question in this time. Like, you've got to do your job. So I mean, if you're talking about capturing the essence of a person, you can't do that in 15 minutes. You don't even know.
This is a corporate job here that you got to do the job and get it done.
Yeah,
okay.
and not even, it's not necessarily even corporate. I mean, if you're doing celebrity photography, or, if you're photographing Sean Penn or something, you don't get time to meet Sean Penn and hang out with him and, go for lunch with him and learn who he is. That's not how it works. Maybe Annie Leibovitz,
she gets that sort of time.
Maybe she can, maybe she gets to do that, but the majority of us don't. So, yeah, I think the newspaper gave me a lot of confidence in doing very quick portraiture. So, 10-minute portraiture. And I always sit there, like doing a CEO portrait where you've only got 10 minutes to do the job. You don't know the CEO. He walks into the room. He says, where do you want me? And then if you're prepared, and this is a big part of photography, being prepared and, getting there early enough, knowing exactly what you're going to shoot. And then, realistically, out of that 10 minutes, you only need 5 minutes. Like, if you're really prepared, you don't even need the 10 minutes. So somehow, that was my sort of tip to portraiture photography, or how I see portraiture and how corporate or celebrity portraiture works. And, rarely do you get the freedom. So
yeah, to just go willy-nilly and time, you don't have that time. So you're saying the CEO walks in, and I must briefly ask you as well, Justin, you say you prepared. What does that actually mean? Do you if you come with a whole kit, do you have a backdrop? Talk us through it. How are you like carrying 4 different bags, or do you super streamlined, efficient? Over the years, you've worked out, okay, this is what I need, and you keep it simple?
Yeah, no, I think by being prepared, it's coming early. It's because you've never been to the location before. So the people say, okay, we need, depending on what level of person you're photographing, because CEOs, for example, they don't want to walk across the whole campus of their work to get to this place. They want to do it outside their office because they have no time. And then you think, well, what's their office environment like? I don't want to be surprised. I want to be prepared and get there early and search out the best location. And I shoot with portable lighting a lot, so I would never go to a job without lighting. And so it's about understanding what works with what environment you're giving. And the longer you have to think about it, the better your picture will be. So, I always say to the client, I need to be there an hour before I need to do the shoot. And, depending on how big a shoot it is, it will be even going to that location before, a day before or a week before, to know what you're going to have to bring and how you're going to have to do it, and, discuss how the photo's going to look. So, yeah, preparation.
So preparation key to that whole thing. And getting there early and making sure you know what's going on. But I think you underestimate the certain level of understanding that you have with your gear as well. That you just you look at a space, okay, I need a light here, maybe one there. and I'll be good for a close up, perhaps a bit further back, and you've got your maybe 10 or 15 photos to choose from.
Yeah. I think the gear aspect, you know, knowing your gear and how it works, that's even second nature now. And then it's purely up to your creativity of how you want that photo to look. So it's not so much about how can I make it look that way. You know how to make it look that way. It's whether you come up with that concept. So the concept of, you know, is it going to be a real dark background and your lighting, you know, sort of
more dramatic or
exactly. Like, you know, you have to come up with that, and that's got nothing to do with the gear. Like, that's got to do with your mind and your creativity, and then once you know how you want it done, then you can get it done with your life. So
oh, fantastic. No, it sounds like it was in some ways you said you had to close the door in India and another door opened for you here in Switzerland, and it sort of just took off from there. And they had a couple of good years. And there's been not only a huge technological advance in photography since 2006, but a different workspace. I mean, the '08 crash and Switzerland itself, I think, has undergone a lot of change over the last few years. So how can you compare the workspace now? Are you still doing a lot of corporate stuff, or have you branched out a bit? How is it looking and feeling at the moment?
Yeah. I think, first of all, Switzerland is like what I've learned in, you know, 14 odd years of living here is the economy over here is very robust. Like, you know, the 2008 financial crash, I think it didn't even really affect my business at all. Like,
that's crazy.
Switzerland just marched on. Like, just, you know, it just kept powering on. And then I'm thinking, you know, you're reading in the newspaper or what's happening in America and stuff, and you think, over here, it's just, I mean, I'm not noticing too much difference. And, you know, obviously in the last year, the pandemic's a bit of a different thing. Like, this is a bit more extreme than the financial crash. So, yeah, I mean, that changes things quite a bit, I guess. And I think I'm shooting probably a little bit more commercially these days, doing more advertising stuff. You know, the magazine work, when I first came over here, like in the around 2010 or whatever, there was a lot of magazine work, and there was a lot of international magazine work, you know, very corporate business. That's kind of changed now. Like, you know, there's not big magazine work like there used to be. So you have to sort of get your work in another way. And that other way is websites. Because back in 2010, I don't think the websites had the same power they do now. Like, if you look at a company now, their website is the face of the company, like almost 100% of the time. And, you know, you could talk to someone in 2010 and they'd say, yeah, websites are important and everything, but, you know, we still have our own branding that we're, you know, that our clients know us from other ways as well. Whereas now, like, the website's king. And, you know, not just the website, but with LinkedIn and Facebook and everything, and, you know, Instagram, and promoting yourself through these digital platforms as well. And
that's been a huge shift. It's you know, print media and print advertising, in my limited experience in this field, as you just mentioned now, it has decreased, but the online presence has grown massively. I mean, my generation, if you mention a company, the first thing I'm doing is Googling it. Like, that's just how it is. And you know, having started CM Travels, I mean, that was like, how quickly can I get a website up and running that showcases the company? And it must have been similar for you. So did you start that journey as well? Did you build when did you start your website? Let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, my website was very early. Like, I mean, in 2006, I had a website. I think websites to photographers were always quite important. And I mean, when I started photography in the 90s, like, it was very hard to see what other photographers were doing. Like, it was really, I mean, it was very hard to learn from other photographers or get inspiration from other photographers, because it was very hard to see their best work. And they used to have these, like, I can't remember what they were called. They were like these art books. And so these advertising agencies you would advertise in them. So you would say, okay, I'm going to pay $2,000 to have 5 photos put in this art book, and it would go to all the advertising agencies. So, you know, they would flick through all these looking for photographers.
Okay, that's old school.
Yeah, very old school. And so the websites came along, and that changed everything, where every photographer in the world, you could see their best work. And that was a great learning. I mean, it is today, to this day, like looking at other photographers' work is where your inspiration comes from and where ideas come from and everything. So that's a great bonus. People starting photography now have that massive opportunity. But you know, I just going back to how photography changed a little bit from when I came over. I remember going to Perpignan. You know, this big photography festival in France, and you know, this was a really
I've heard of it but never been.
Yeah, well, it hasn't been the last couple of years. It hasn't been, but I mean, this is more it's a news-based like festival somehow, but it's huge. And I'd heard about this, and when I moved to Europe, it's like, what a cool opportunity. It's only like, you know, 8 hours down the road. I can go to Perpignan. So, and I remember listening to this speech he was the head of AP news agency, and he was saying how in 10 years, that was in 2006, in 10 years, photography will be dead, right? And then, so now fast forward 10 years, and then you go, photography is bigger than it's ever been. Like,
I would agree with you there.
Yeah, and okay, he might have been coming from a news perspective, and fair enough, it's a different way of looking at it, but Instagram came along, and you know, there's a lot of like negatives and positives with Instagram, but Instagram gave the ability of everyone to start taking photos and everyone to pay attention to photography and everyone to try to be creative with their phones and everything. So, you know, that combination of telephones getting better cameras and Instagram coming along with a platform that everyone could share photography just skyrocketed the importance of photography in society. And so it's a great thing. And, you know, and then on the other hand, the negative aspects I think about Instagram is how to get noticed on Instagram, like there's just a lot of fake photography coming along because the software, the Photoshops and, you know, the editing softwares are so powerful. And the only way, like when I look at Instagram and I start going through all these, you know, different profiles, the only photos that tend to stop you are the ones where you go, wow, look at that. How did they do that? And then when you analyze it a bit more, it's like, you can't do that.
No, exactly.
That's not a real photo. Like, yeah, that's a made up photo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it is those ones that make you stop seem to be just that wow factor. And I think that space has also evolved. I think Instagram now, it used to be like follow as many people as you want, and you know, you just but I think it's now come to a point where people follow perhaps less people and they're more focused on like between 10 and 15 of their favorite people. So initially I think it was just like, oh, there's so many and you can get a lot of exposure. I think it was those first few, even 6 months to 2 years. Yeah, it was just so much exposure for people that were getting on there. And now it's like, okay, I've found the people that I like, I'm sticking with them. And this has created, I think, that authenticity factor. People want to know or want to see rather more authentic profiles, more authentic images, and has probably pushed people to become more creative and more themselves, I think, as well, which is I'm also, I think you're right, I'm on you. There are a lot of pros and there are also a lot of cons, but one pro that I've seen recently, at least my feel, personal opinion, but I think that the people who have that authenticity now are really doing well on the platform, and it's because they've embraced a certain style. Yes, of course, there's a lot of editing, I think, that goes into a lot of the images and so on and so forth, but the more authentic, the better. Yeah.
You know, what one thing happened to me, I mean, I agree 100% with you. And I love how creative people are these days. Like, you know, coming from a teaching background of teaching people photography and then seeing what happens nowadays and just seeing how a lot of people on Instagram who have never even learned photography, they're so creative. And it's quite just amazing how, you know, in the 90s, there was very few people that were taking very creative photos. And now it's like everyone knows how to take a creative photo. I mean, it's great. And, you know, unfortunately, coming back to trying to get noticed is harder and harder now because the standard is just huge. And so I think Instagram's been good for the photography world. I mean, there's more positives than negatives, I think. One thing that for the other photographers out there and people that are just starting their, you know, careers and stuff, one aspect of Instagram that maybe gets overlooked, and I noticed this, I was on a photo shoot, it was a year and a half ago or something like that, and there was a makeup artist there and there was a model there. And I'd never met either of them. So I turned up to the shoot and we were talking, and then they said, "Oh, so what sort of stuff do you do?" And I was telling them, and they go, "Oh, like, what's your Instagram like? What's your Instagram account?"
Instagram handle, yeah.
Yeah, handle. And then I was thinking, why are you not asking me what my website is? Like, and then I was thinking, they're more interested in the Instagram. And then, you know, I had a light bulb moment where I thought, man, your Instagram for a photographer is not a play toy. It's not where you put your kids on it or you just have, you know, photos that are of your weekend away. Like, it's really a professional tool. And there will be people looking at your Instagram account, judging you as a photographer. So I think you've got to be really aware of what you put on your Instagram, and, you know, having no kid photos or, you know, your cat, you know, curled up in the corner. It's remember who's looking at this stuff, and that there are opportunities. People will hire you from Instagram. So
absolutely. I think it's a huge hiring platform. I think you're so right. I think for a while, and it still is, I mean, Instagram could be essentially a quick way to your website through an app, basically. Because to make an app of your own website, I know we've looked into it, but it's expensive. So Instagram is basically like your own personal app to have that, and people can hire you. You're so right. And I as well, I mean, starting our one as well, I mean, every photo I began our channel and started to grow it. But after a while, you're like, okay, I need my own perhaps personal Instagram account where you share with your friends, and then you have that your business, and that's where you put in all of your professional work. Absolutely.
So things have changed a lot since like 2006
when photography was supposed to be dying. Was it 2010?
But to be honest, like, even in 2006, people were using the websites. People were finding you through the website. Absolutely. Like, I was getting a lot of work through the website. I didn't know anyone over here. So, I mean, the work was really coming through the website. So, you know, Google plays a huge role. So, you can't underestimate the power of Google.
Okay, Dustin, before we dive into your website, would you just give the audience here a quick breakdown of your gear that you're currently using and what always goes in and what you need? Because like literally just tell us, like, how many bodies do you have? What lenses do you take? Because I'd love to hear it as well myself. So lay it on us.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing when you're a professional, you definitely need backups of everything. Like, I mean, having two bodies, you know, having lenses, like just having flashes. Like, I mean, things can go wrong, and you know that the quality of
has that happened to you? Have you like arrived somewhere and, oh hell, something's gone wrong, and how have you dealt with it?
Yeah, no.
Or you're the super prepared man who comes with everything?
No. I think the quality of cameras nowadays is amazing. It always amazes me when I hear people talk about, you know, when you read reviews about cameras. I always find it funny nowadays when people start complaining about, oh yeah, this, and, you know, it doesn't do this quick enough. And it's like, man, when you remember back in the film days, mate, you don't complain about any piece of technology in these modern cameras. Like,
spoiled. We're all spoiled.
Yeah, everything is like amazing. And I'm quite humble about it, I think, because I don't complain about the cameras at all. Like, I just love them. And they just, and any new technology that they add onto a camera, it's like, wow, that's just crazy. I mean, I think the Sony, I'm just reading about the Sony the other day, shooting 30 frames a second of maybe 50 meg photos. I don't know if that's true.
I think that's it's no, I think you're definitely within the ballpark figure there. It's the is it the A1?
Yeah,
I think it's the A1, the new release, the flagship.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It blows you away to think. I mean, that's shooting 30 frames a second. Is like a movie. Like, so you're shooting basically continuous movie at 50 frames. It's like, and okay, you don't have many photos. You can probably only shoot a couple of seconds at the most. Sorry, I don't know.
The buffer speed. No, we'll put up a little number here of what we're talking about. The new Sony A1. And how much the frame rate and the bit rate, because there'll for sure be a buffer speed and a limit. I think on the I think it's like 200 if I'm not mistaken. So that would literally be just a few seconds, and then you've filled that buffer. Yeah,
but I mean, as you can tell, I'm not such a sort of geeky equipment person. To be honest, I've always thought. I've always been more about getting inspiration from other photographers and looking at photos rather than the gear that I use. And so I'm not so geeky about, like, studying all the latest cameras. And to be honest, I'm shooting with a 5D Mark IV. I mean, this camera is 5 years old. I mean, I'm still shooting with it as a professional. I'm shooting with it now. 5 years, and people maybe on your site will think, man, that's old school camera.
I started with the 5D, the Mark One. That was my first first full frame, big deal camera. 12 megapixels. People laugh at me.
But it does the job. I mean, I don't think I have much of a reason to change. And I shot with the Canon 5R, I think it's called. It's the shuttleless camera. I just shot with it the other day, just on a job in a film studio, so it had to be silent. So it's got a silent shutter on it, which is great for that scenario. But at the end of the day, I thought, what's this camera doing that my 5-year-old camera is not doing? I mean, I didn't see such an advance where I thought, hey, I have to go out and reinvest.
Yeah, exactly. But and when you went back and looked at the photos on your computer and doing editing, you really, even in that point between the 5D Mark IV and I'm assuming the R5, the Canon R5, the new one, you didn't see much in terms of the raw file difference in editing them.
No, it was quite the quality was quite amazing. And somehow for me it was almost too crisp, it was
almost like fake crisp.
It was too perfect. And then I was thinking, back it reminded me back in the days when film and digital changed. Like, everyone was complaining about digital, saying, it looks fake.
It looks weird. Yeah, we're not used to it.
Yeah, it doesn't give you the real, photography style. And then, it's exactly like that now, where you look at it and you think it's just so sharp and it's so clear and clear. And then, somehow, I don't know whether I like that or whether I need to get used to it. Maybe I need to evolve a little bit and
never DSLR for life. Yeah.
And then so I shoot with the Mark IV, and then I also have a 5D RS, which is a 50 meg camera, but that's also 5 years old. And to be honest, I hardly ever use it. The ISO of that camera, it's a studio camera, and it's a portrait camera for shooting in the studios. And, for shooting product stuff and for shooting food and stuff as well, it's great. Also for shooting architecture. But I always come back to the Mark IV. I like shooting with it better. I don't know, it feels better. It's, you know, the screen on the back, being able to see the sharpness, because it's got a touch screen and the RS doesn't have a touch screen. So, you know, that ability to have that touch screen, I'm so used to that when I use the RS, it's like I keep touching the screen and nothing happens.
Like, and then you're going back, oh, okay, now I'm going to use my thumb again. Okay.
Yeah. So,
Now,
and then,
the
you know,
Mark
lenses,
IV, that 5D Mark IV is a great camera. I mean, even still now, I think a new one is like well over $3,000. It's a serious piece of equipment.
Yeah, and it's great. Like I've never had a problem with it in all the time, and you know, I shoot with I've got a 24-70 lens. I shoot with a 70-200, and I have a 300 2.8 lens that I've had since Australia back in, you know, the 90s. So, you know, but it's so pin sharp. This lens is just so pin sharp, and what is it, 30 years old now, and it's quite amazing.
Crazy. I've got to actually, I don't know, I used to have the lenses up behind me here, but I also I don't know if it's that old, but it's a 300 f4 L. I think it's is it IS? Yeah, I think it's IS. It's a beautiful lens. I had a big rant. By the way, if you're interested in seeing that video, folks, you can see the pop-up link here. We'll put it up. But beautiful lens, man. But that must be, is it still, do you have to adapt it, or does it fit directly onto the?
No,
okay, so it's still oh god, what are the name of I just think of the Nikon now, the F mount. What's the Canon mount? It's just also an F mount, isn't it? It's the EF mount.
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
So you still fitting the F, and is it an F4 or is it F2.8?
No, it's F2.8.
Okay, beautiful.
It's one of the big cream ones. Like, it was a sport lens. I was shooting sport with it, and so I don't use it so much anymore. Sometimes I get jobs where I use it, and So
okay, so you got the two bodies, the 24-70 and the 70-200. Like, those are your bankers. Those are in the bag no matter what.
Yeah, and then I've got a 15-24 for interior stuff that I shoot interior with. I like it. It's quite an expensive lens. I try to shoot on the 24-70 when I can, when I shoot interiors. But you know, sometimes because of space allocation, you need to be wider. I mean, it's got a pretty vicious perspective problem with it. You know, shooting at 15 mil, if anything's close to the lens, and that
super
annoys
barrel
me.
distortion.
It seems so unprofessional to be shooting, and Photoshop fixes it. That's the great thing. I mean, you can fix it all, but what it doesn't fix, I've noticed, is if there's a round light on the roof, the round light becomes more of an oval shape, and you can't fix it. And that annoys me. So you have to be aware of these things when shooting on with the 15 mil. So
super wide 15. I mean, that's super wide.
Yeah, and then the other main part of my kit would be my lighting stuff. So I mean that goes everywhere with me. I shoot Elinchrom stuff. I shoot the portable Elinchrom. The what are the power packs called? It's escaped me right now. So I have two portable battery pack Elinchrom, and then I shoot with two heads, like two power heads. So and they come everywhere with me. You know, you just don't know what you're about to walk into, and you know the lighting can solve a lot of your issues. So if you've got the right lighting, you know you can get out of trouble if it's really ugly looking, or if it's So
it can really help separate, I'm assuming, your subject from whatever background or horrible background you might have. You can really isolate them and make them pop out and fade, I suppose, the background, and we don't need to talk about lighting. Lighting is photography. This is what it is, painting with light. No, that's mad. That's magic. I think you probably have a few guys who are now putting that stuff in their bags for us. But recent trip, now we're going to dive into your website, and let's share the screen here and and find out a little bit more about other images that you like to take, Justin.
Okay.
Boom. This first one, my goodness. Burning Man, I'm assuming. Justin, when was this travel adventure?
Yeah, that was 2016, and that was with I'm a member of like a photography collective in Zurich called Planet Visible, and we went over there. The three photographers that started Planet Visible, we went over there and shot Burning Man, and yeah, it was a great experience. Very very tough shooting. Like it's really I mean, you see a lot of fantastic photos out of Burning Man, and you know, as a professional, to go over there and try to do what you want to do, Burning Man's a difficult, like, environment to shoot in. It was very hot during the day. It was too hot during the day to be really out, you know, with inspiration to shoot. You're kind of in survival mode. It was so hot. So you know,
Desert survival.
yeah, you had to shoot really early in the morning, and then or in the evening, and then when it got dark, it was like very difficult to shoot in the dark. Everything was moving and that. So, and we had our ideas of how we wanted to photograph. I mean, I wanted to just do portraiture. I wasn't really interested in capturing the essence of Burning Man. I was just going there because I wanted to take portraiture. So yeah, but it was extremely rewarding. I mean, I love this photo, for example, and you know,
It's
and
magic, man.
yeah,
As an observer, it's really striking.
yeah, and I mean that's what Burning Man gave you. It gave you this interest point where, yeah, that was great. So anyone wanting to shoot, like, don't. I mean, I wouldn't say Burning Man was easy and you're guaranteed. You have to really work to get your images there, but it can be very rewarding. So
No, if anyone's interested, please go ahead and click on Justin's Burning Man tab here, and you'll be blown away by some images. Some of the content not be so child friendly, so we're going to move on to the travel at this point and talk about Justin's recent trip to the wonderful Namibia. Justin,
yeah.
where did you get the inspiration to travel all the way to Namibia?
No, I mean, for sure, when we spoke, I remember when we spoke a year ago, you were talking about a lot about South Africa, obviously, and
Yeah.
you know, and also the wildlife and Africa as a whole. And I mean, somehow I'd never been to Africa, and I remember you sort of wide-eyed thinking you've never been there, like as a photographer, like it's got to be on your bucket list. And it's like, yeah, you know, one day I'll get there. And I think Namibia was, because of the pandemic, it was very difficult to travel, obviously, last year. But Namibia was one of these countries that was still open. You didn't have to quarantine, and they didn't have many cases of corona. So it was actually, there was a window of opportunity to go there where it wasn't really easy to go to many other countries. So, you know, it was great. And I mean, you told me how great Africa is, and I think
You've been bitten by the Africa bug, I think.
yeah, mate, I absolutely love it. I'm talking to everyone about it, and so yeah, I mean, and Namibia, you know, having a four-wheel drive and just driving around. There's so much freedom in Namibia as well. Like there's not much restrictions. They let you do whatever you want to do almost, and that was great. Like as a wild adventure, Namibia should be on everyone's list. So
I couldn't agree more with you, Justin. No, and the images here, we'll scroll through a couple of them. This, I think, is a sunset image to start.
yeah,
If I'm right, yeah, the sunset image, beautiful. I'm assuming this is
yeah.
with a 24 mil.
Yeah, I would assume also. You know, one thing that also when I go on holidays, because this was a holiday, this was not a photography trip.
Yeah. Let's make that a point as well. Like, this is Justin on holiday, folks. This is just
Yeah,
enjoying himself away from Zurich and the
yeah,
photography world.
and you know, Burning Man wasn't a holiday. Burning Man was a job. We went there to photograph, and that was the reason we went. Namibia was different, but you know, obviously Namibia also is an extremely photogenic country, so it would be a shame not to take my camera with me. So, and normally I never take my camera with me on holidays, but
Yeah, we had a chat before you went, and
yeah,
I was like, "What are you not taking?" You even Folks, he even said to me, I'm not even taking my camera. Are you crazy? You have to take a camera. But that's how you've, as a photographer, your whole life, you realize that perhaps I need a break from the camera and I want to
Yeah,
enjoy and not be looking through the viewfinder.
yeah. No, that's the reason I usually don't photograph. You know, it's so easy to get burnout. It's so easy to be consumed by photography. And yeah, I think taking a step away when you're on holidays is important. And but for some reason, like Namibia, I'd seen photos, and it's like this country just to not take your camera, and you know, to be driving around where you don't have to carry your camera. A lot of the time, like if I'm traveling, it's you know with a backpack a lot of the time and camping, and you know the cameras are heavy and but you know we had a car, so there wasn't much excuse. It's like the camera's going to sit in the car. I don't have to carry it
Yeah.
around. And then so you know I think I was convinced that I will take it with me, and I'm glad I did because yeah, it's around every bend in Namibia is a photogenic
Yeah, you
like
just want to snap, snap, snap.
yeah. So yeah.
No,
So
well,
I mean, I mean, that photo of the tree was by accident. That was just going for a walk on sunset one night, like, and yeah, just I mean, the sunsets are amazing over there, and yeah, it was very iconic. When I looked at that, I thought it's very African iconic.
it's
So
very after that. The acacia tree, the sunset. But all you needed here was perhaps like a giraffe or something, like
yeah,
standing in the sunset. Then it would have been
exactly.
like perfect. No, it's
Yeah,
an amazing image and definitely
yeah,
captures, yeah, what is an African scene very, very well. And
yeah,
this is a, I love this image. It's dunes. And as I said, I mean, you were just taking photos just to enjoy it. I mean,
yeah,
and it wasn't supposed to be work, but man, this is beautiful as well. These dunes.
yeah.
How did you just sort of, was it right there in front of you, or did you sort of compose it a bit? Again, what gear here were you at 24? This looks like perhaps a 70 to 200.
Yeah, you know, I think I I am a visual person for sure, and I think I'm also inquisitive, and I also love nature, and then I think
Okay.
yeah, you know, that combination without going looking for that. Like I wasn't looking for that image. I wasn't walking around. You know, I went to this area, obviously, of Namibia where the sand dunes were and Sossus Play, but you know, that was just because I'd seen photos. That landscape looks amazing. Let's go there. So it wasn't really to sort out photos and, you know, look for angles. I mean, that happens just by being there. Like you put
Yeah.
yourself in a certain landscape and, you know, your natural juices start flowing and you just want to take photos because it's just popping out at you. And I think this is one of these scenarios where you know, you just go up into the dunes. It was early in the morning. It was maybe 6:30 in the morning when that was taken. And yeah, we were just walking and playing around up there a little bit and, you know, feeling nature. And, you know, then around every corner, there's photos like this. So,
No,
yeah, it was,
magic. And the lighting is still so soft here.
yeah,
And the lines are really, but I mean, as you say, if you did, you know, did a bit of the research and knew where you wanted to go, you just
yeah,
sort of had to stumble here and spend a bit of time there,
yeah,
get there at the right time with some nice light
yeah. And
and take your time.
the greatest thing about Sausage Slave, for example, is the dunes are massive and they spread out over a huge area, and it's so easy to be alone. It's so easy just to stop your car wherever and say, we don't need to go where all the tourist car park is and everyone's going in. We can stop anywhere, like and go
Yeah.
into the dunes. There's no rules. And so yeah, that was nice that you had that freedom to just explore yourself. So
No, that's the magic about the place, is it is that big that you can find somewhere,
yeah,
a quiet corner, and just enjoy it and take your own
yeah.
photos. And I love this. To the next one here. Did you intentionally put these little
No,
beetle tracks in here? Because I just noticed it now, and it's epic. It actually adds quite a bit to the
you,
photo, which is
you know,
already
I
amazing.
pretty much in that exact area. And I didn't take a photo of it, unfortunately, because maybe it wasn't an interesting photo, but it was such an interesting nature aspect. There was a blade of grass, and it had been blowing around in the wind, and it had created this exact circle in the sand. And it's like, man, that's crazy, this geometry that like nature has created here. And like the beetle tracks running down, and at this stage I was by myself, and I'd been walking maybe about 2 hours into the sand dunes, and
going proper rogue.
Yeah, I was sweating. It was hot as anything. Like I was just dripping wet. And then I was thinking, are there any hyenas out here? Like, because I was thinking, if a hyena saw me stumbling through these dunes, man, I think it would think he's on his last legs. I'm going to follow him.
Folks, when an Aussie says that it's hot, it really is hot. Believe me.
Yeah, but it gets hot quick.
Yeah, very quick. I mean, you're saying you were there 6:30, and this is a bit later on in the day. It's getting properly warm.
Yeah.
Now, these are, I mean, this is also stunning. This must have been from a bit of a more much higher perspective, looking back down.
Yeah, I mean, those sand dunes that you see, that like I climbed those sand dunes. That's where I was heading. So, I just kept walking, and I was up quite high. So
wild Aussie in Namibia, folks.
Yeah. So,
this is a mad one. How's this tree? How did you get this?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of my favorite photos I took there as well. And, unfortunately, maybe on the internet or whatever, you can't see it very well because of the portrait format, or the vertical format doesn't work as well on the screen. But, just isolating a single tree out, and it was just beautiful. You just think, I mean, it looks so desolate, doesn't it? It looks so apocalyptic in a way, like the earth is ended.
It is. It's awesome.
Yeah, and there's this sort of climate change picture, even though it's not really got anything to do with climate change, because that's just the way it's probably been happening here for 1,000,000 years. So, but I mean, somehow it just seems a climate change type photo.
Absolutely. No, it's powerful. And unfortunately, the perspective here we can't appreciate, but that dune behind that tree is massive.
Yeah, it's an incredible place. Everyone get down to Namibia.
Yeah, do it while you can. I mean, if you can get away, folks, don't be scared to drop just an email or myself. We'll be happy to share our knowledge of the wonderful Namibia with you. And here I can see almost the development of the day as it went through here. So first you were taking a bit of what I would say not more regular, but perhaps you became more creative, because this is very creative, this picture. Now we're looking at a good bit of I would say almost like breaking it down into thirds and having dark and bright. And talk us through this. How did this come out?
I mean, I think I'm attracted to geometry style photos. I mean, I definitely see it in doing interior photography, like, shapes and colors, and really jump out in interior. And so this, somehow it is a little bit interior.
It's very interior. I was going to say, you nailed it there.
Yeah, so I mean, and that's why I think I wanted to go to Sossusvlei. I mean, obviously Sossusvlei is one of the top 2 destinations in Namibia, that's for sure. And so, I mean, I think you're going to end up there anyway, but I was looking forward to going there, and, on my holiday, to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go into the dunes, like something has to be good to motivate me to get up that early.
Just get up and go. Yeah, I mean, but it was rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. Loved it.
Folks, if you have the time, go and visit Justin's website. It is mind-blowing. And if you don't get inspired by these images, I think you may be looking at the wrong channel, because these are magic. Justin, stop me if you want to have a chat about any of these, because this is quite a famous one, of course, the dead flame. And you had it to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that was amazing. Like I was thinking that, I've seen so many photos of this, and somehow had that image as an African image for, tens, decades, like I've had it for. And so I always imagined there'd be a lot of people there and you'd have to wait and you know, to be able to go there and have it to yourself and just walk around.
Magic.
Okay, it was stinking hot. You don't see that in that photo. It was stinking hot. But
Sweating,
I mean,
thirsty.
yeah. And you know, to get into here, you have to park your car, I don't know, what, 40 minutes away, 40-minute walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you have to walk through the dunes for 40 minutes to get. It's not a hard walk, but you still gotta do it. And then so we did that at about 3 in the afternoon. And that's probably why no one was there, because it's just the wrong time to be taking photos of sausage flay. But it was worth it, you know, it was worth a bit of heat, bit of suffering.
No, I love it. I think, yeah, I mean, what you don't get in the morning, perhaps that you're getting here, is this mirage on the edge. It's a bit of special. I mean, I'm assuming that these dark patches are some shrubbery and bush in the background, but they almost look like animals in the background, a bit of some wildebeest or so on, which of course aren't there, I don't think. But it really gives a bit of something different.
Yeah.
Oh, magic. And this is some of the some of the just what you're standing on.
Yeah, just the mud like riverbed or lake bed that it used to be. So yeah, beautiful. It's
And if you didn't get a more typical Namibia image, this is one, just a straight road.
Yeah. I mean, I think also when I look at this image, I think that's Namibia. Like if you're thinking, you know, how is Namibia to go to? It's like that image is exactly Namibia. It's deserty,
dirt road, desert,
big road. There's no one around. You don't see any other cars. You can just drive for hours down these roads, and the landscape changes every like half an hour. And yeah, it's a magic place. And you know, since I've been there, I've actually heard a lot of photographers talk. Do you know the famous photographer David Yarrow?
Yes, I have to say he's one of my, I don't know about probably his inspiration and role model. Some of his images are, I think, a bit controversial, but of course, David Yarrow, please go on.
Yeah. And I mean, he has a podcast. I don't know if you've heard it. And he talks about, you know, some of the iconic pictures he's taken. And then he was in Namibia. And then, you know, during his podcast, he was saying, like, you know, of all the countries I've been to all around the world, I've got to say Namibia's probably the most beautiful that he's been to. And then I think, you know, coming from someone like that that's traveled everywhere, pretty big statement. So,
huge,
you know, there's a lot of countries in the world, and, you know, to come out, you know, in the top 5 of someone's favorite, like, says a lot about it. So
absolutely. I think it's such a special place for photography. It's just such contrast, and that it's just so dramatic, that landscape. And it barren isolation. It just
and even that shot, sorry, go back just a little bit, even that shot there, it doesn't, the camera doesn't even do that justice, because the actual expanse of those dunes, like, they just go on and on and on, and it's all around you. So it's hard to capture that in a photo somehow. And so I mean, you look at that photo and maybe it's a bit of a boring photo or whatever, but that photo, to me, I remember being there, and I remember stopping the car and just going, this is just crazy landscape. It looks like
mad.
we're on the moon. We could be on Mars.
No, it is. And it is, I mean, that's the energy that you get from it. You know, you're energized by your photos. The travel, that's what travel does. It definitely energizes. And for me, you said that's a boring image. Having been to Namibia, I think that's an amazing image, and it's got a lot in it. But also the lack of what is in it creates that, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's so barren, so stark, and just so big and open country.
And the other aspect that is great about that, and you know this from traveling Namibia, before you get out of the car, you need to look around and make sure there's a lion not there that's going to eat you while you take the photo. And then you think, that's just another aspect in Namibia that makes the adventure even better.
Yeah, you've got to keep your wits about you. Head on a swivel, as they say. Check for lions before you get out the car. I mean, come on, where does that happen? No, Namibia is it's special. This is a lovely I mean, you go the one back, we were just looking at it, a landscape, and then you have this sort of
Yeah,
focused small space contrast. Magic.
yeah,
I mean, these are
yeah.
just the types of images you can get, just such a huge range.
Yeah, I remember when I took that image, like I was traveling with my partner, and then she didn't want to. It was on sunset, and then she didn't want to. Like there was, like it was quite hot this day, and it was windy, and she didn't want to come to the dune. And then I said, "Yeah, but it's just up there. It's only 10 minutes." And she goes, "No, I don't want to come." So I went by myself, and I just sat up in the dunes. I had my camera, and I took about 5 photos from this area, and then when I came back and showed her, she's like, "My God, like where was that?" And I said, "Yeah, just at this June here." And she's going, "Oh man, I should have come." And then I was thinking, it's amazing how the desert looks so boring sometimes and uninteresting. But then if you just sit down for a while, like the desert just opens itself up to you. And you
Yeah,
know, you just see life there, and not necessarily animal and fauna and flora life. You just see nature, like in the way nature has created these like waves in the sand, and yeah, that's
no,
and Namibia is full of that. Like it's never ending. So
taking the time and just stopping
yeah,
and settling into one place, it
yeah. I
opens
mean
your
that
eyes.
that that photo was taken at the same place the top one was, like while I was sitting there just looking at the yeah, and that's beautiful. So
The light here is so soft, so subtle, magic.
yeah,
And just the contrast between here, the middle of the and then you get the mountains. Well,
yeah,
we wouldn't say mountains in Switzerland. The Swiss heard us saying these are mountains, folks,
yeah,
they'd kill us. But the hills in the background,
yeah,
I mean, this is the contrast. It's just crazy, something incredibly unique, just
yeah.
to Namibia. And when we first looked at these images together, Justin, this was one that sort of is engraved in I think my memory forever,
Yeah,
because I think when I thought about when we first began to discuss Namibia, this is the image that I had. I was like, I got to try and find Justin a spot where he's going to have something
yeah,
like this. He's got the 4-wheel drive, he's camping, he's got the dirt
yeah,
between his toes,
yeah,
and just beautiful,
yeah.
absolutely
It,
stunning.
yeah, it's unreal. I mean, if you're wondering what camping in Namibia is like, I mean, that's how it is. And I mean, by the way, that's a campground. That's not you're not just wild camping. It's not so possible to wild camp in Namibia, but
Yeah.
their campgrounds are wild. And then you don't even see another car. And then you think that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I like that as well. I think there's an element to wild camping for some people, but
Yeah,
in somewhere like Namibia, there does seem to be you need a bit of control. You happen to go in a town where it was quiet. I mean, the
yeah,
global pandemic has had that effect naturally, but
yeah,
it, it's important that the nature is conserved as well, and people are
yeah,
monitored to some effect, because it's I've always my old man, a professor at university in biology for many over 25 years, I think, always
yeah,
told me nature manages itself, but managing the people is the important thing. And I think that's what these
yeah,
campsites do. They are still wild and
yeah,
are beautiful. Even though you're
yeah,
sharing them with other people, you still have your space.
yeah. And they really respect your privacy the way they've set out these campsites. I mean, maybe not everywhere, but if you do a bit of research, you'll find these places everywhere. So, and yeah, we loved it for that respect. And so I think it was one of I'm such a wild camper. Somehow coming from Australia, like it's quite wild in Australia and you can camp free in
Absolutely.
Australia. And so I've always been that sort of camper. I've never been a campground camper. And so I was a bit hesitant in Namibia, like campgrounds, like you have to stay in campgrounds everywhere. And I didn't really, wasn't particularly looking forward to it. But
Yeah.
one of the highlights of the trip was these campgrounds because they were just so cool. And they had their own bathroom. You had a private bathroom. You had showers. It was kind of like glamping, as they say.
Yeah, you had some small things that were yeah,
Yeah,
just made the experience more comfortable.
yeah. yeah, so it's great.
No, I absolutely love it. I really do love this image. For me, I'm so happy that you
Yeah,
had a time like this.
yeah,
And here, I mean, considering you were quite interested in seeing wildlife, and I think you happy to say that one of the destinations, Etosha, was an absolute highlight for you. Here
yeah,
we get into the first image of a zebra. Talk about seeing wildlife for the first time. How was it?
yeah, yeah. I
Not wild,
mean,
I mean African wildlife.
yeah, incredible. And I think when I discussed with my partner when we were on the last night in Namibia and we were thinking about all the amazing places we went to and the whole experience and then look and thinking, so what was the highlight? And without a doubt, it was Astocia and the wildlife. And it was maybe to someone that had been to Africa and had seen these animals before, maybe Astocia is nothing overly fantastic. But if you've never seen this before, Astocia blows you away. I mean, I didn't realize that there's so many animals. I mean, of course there's zebra, but we saw 10,000 zebra, and that's I don't think that's an exaggeration. They were
No, I don't think so
everywhere.
either.
Yeah, and I mean, we must have seen. Oh, we saw hundreds of giraffes, like literally in the time in Etosha for 4 days we're in Etosha, we saw hundreds of giraffes. They were everywhere, and I was thinking, it would be great to see a giraffe. I just had no concept of how many
How
giraffes there
many you see?
actually are.
Eventually they become like, oh, this is another giraffe. We want to see something
Yeah,
else.
yeah,
Spoiled.
absolutely. So at the end, you weren't even slowing down to have a look at the giraffe. You just go flying past them, and yeah. So it was Atosha was fantastic, and yeah, and we were. I think from to give a bit of advice to people that go to Namibia, if you start in Atosha, it's a great place to start because it
Yeah.
puts you on this high and you're just blown away and you're super adrenalized and you're incredibly happy and then that flows into the rest of your trip because that beginning was amazing and so yeah we loved it. It was the wildlife was great.
No,
So
I think yeah, you nailed it there by going into Etosha for the first few days, just
yeah,
magic, and you realized, okay, we've done like the big thing, our big goal, like we don't want to be disappointed, we want to see wildlife, and boom, you get there and you see thousands of zebra, hundreds of giraffe,
yeah,
and these beautiful springbok here as well. I mean, the
yeah,
megafauna is insane.
yeah. And to be able to take the biggest lens you can. I mean, I only had a 7200, and yeah, it was for sure it was not enough. Like it would have been great to, and I mean, in hindsight, I should have taken my 300. And I had a two-time extender as well that I took with me, and but it wasn't enough. You're always, I mean, I think maybe you speak to any wildlife photographer, you always want more.
Yeah, we want that in everything really in life. But yeah,
Yeah,
you if you can get a 300, maybe 200 minimum, and if you can
yeah,
300, 400, 500, and even a
yeah,
600, uh,
yeah.
take
No,
it because you'll need
yeah,
it.
yeah, absolutely. And you'll get a reward for it as well. And if you spend a few days in Natosha, like you see so many animals. You'll have that thing hanging out the window like for 10 hours a day.
Oh no, magic! I love sharing these stories with people because it's just so lovely to uh,
Yeah,
to 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 share in nature and how important it is for us. But
yeah,
let's see. We're on to our last image here, folks. We're not going to keep you too much longer. Justin,
yeah,
again, thank you for your time. But this, like the camping image, you want to get something special when you go to Namibia. When you, well, I'm way too fast.
yeah,
You want to get something special when you go to Namibia. And considering that you went on a holiday, you didn't really want to take your camera. I think we've seen some pretty spectacular images. But this one
yeah,
ending here, like I just thought, oh, cool. Because Justin's got an image of Namibia, which is really unique, even
yeah,
though it has been photographed so much.
Yeah.
Even your first time there, not knowing the landscape, not really doing job photography, you still happen to basically stumble onto something really, really special and unique. And I think
Yeah.
every photographer or every traveler that goes out to Namibia has the potential to get something that is truly going to be
Yeah.
one of a kind image. And I think this
Yeah.
is amazing. I mean, how is this oryx? Where did you find
Yeah.
it? Did he just walk up to talk us
Well,
through
I
it?
think, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of oryx in Namibia, and way more than I ever thought. And I think when you see your first oryx, you think that's just a beautiful animal. That is just stunning. This animal, and
The
then look,
markings, yeah, this contrast with the black and white,
yeah,
it's just they're painted. They look painted.
yeah, and really, there's hundreds of them. Like it's yeah, I mean, really, there's a lot of them. I mean, you look at that image and it wasn't really, I mean, it was stumbling on the image in a way, but it was not unreasonable to say 15 minutes later I couldn't have taken a similar image because, yeah, you'll come across another herd of oryx and think, okay, let's go over there and take some pictures. So, yeah, I mean, the opportunities are great.
No,
I
it's
mean, maybe,
fantastic.
yeah, I mean, you obviously know the national parks of Africa a lot better, way better. And yeah,
Thanks.
maybe you sit there and say, yeah, that's just Africa, but yeah, I can't compare it obviously, but for the first experience, it was
No,
way more
magic.
than I ever dreamed. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And you've done some when there's so many animals together, it's difficult to like try and create a composition or an image in your head. You think, oh,
yeah,
there's just so many. How do I capture this?
yeah,
And isolating the subject like you've done here, I think probably from your portrait background, as really as such as led to this incredibly strong, powerful image where you've isolated a subject. You've yeah. I mean, I could go
yeah,
on, but it's beautiful, and I think
yeah. Thank
all
you.
of the images you took were fantastic. And I mean, thank you again for showing us this. And folks, again, head across to Justin's website and you can check out more images because there's even more travel images from Justin. And yeah, on closing, Justin, let's quickly stop sharing the screen here and get back to some business stuff. Where do you see the future of photography going? Are you a doomsday prepper and thinking it's going to crash and burn, or are you thinking it's only onwards and upwards?
Um, no, I think photography is not going anywhere. That's for sure. I think I think it's become obvious that that's it's here to stay, and photography has a place in this world because I think the still image on the website, the still image on the marketing brochure, on the LinkedIn picture. I mean, it plays a bigger part as video, and I think video becomes more and more powerful, of course, but photography is holding its own, and yeah, I think people love photography and it's amazing how many people love photography. And Instagram, if you had have said to me in 2006, taking and creating a website where people could share photos, I would have probably been thinking, I don't know if that's a good idea because I don't know how many people are into taking photos. Like who takes, like, I mean, as a professional, of course I love photos, but I don't see other people doing it. And
Yeah,
then how wrong you are. Like, I mean, I don't think a professional photographer could have started Instagram because they wouldn't have been aware that the general public had so much interest in taking photos. So, I mean, we underestimated that. And I think everyone did. Otherwise, we all would have started Instagram and become billionaires. But yeah, I think that's why photography is not going anywhere.
no, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's onwards and upwards, and I think um, the I think the evolution is just going to push it to new places. The technology nowadays is insane,
Yeah.
And anyone and everyone can be a photographer just with their phone. So if you're new to photography, folks, stick with it. With time, you get better, and it really is. It forms a crucial part of one's life. And a huge
And our
thank you
memories.
again from me, Justin, for sharing your time with us today. And
Been a pleasure.
yeah, hopefully we'll get you back on again soon. And until then, have a lovely day, folks.
Okay. See you guys. Take care.
Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed the video today, speaking to Justin and hearing his thoughts. If you're keen to see similar content to this, I'd love to hear your feedback in the comment section below. A huge thank you for spending the time with me and Justin today. Perhaps we'll see you again soon. If you loved the video, hit that subscribe square, bottom left of the corner there. And if you liked it, go ahead and tick that thumbs up. We really appreciate it, help support the channel. Until next time, bye bye.